Welcome to our channel. Get ready for a collection of incredible stories that will send shivers down your spine. If you love mystery and horror, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us bring you more thrilling content. Now, turn off the lights, get comfortable, and let's dive into the stories. The moon shone ominously over an unassuming old house. A kerosene lamp glowed in one window. A dirty room that had never been ventilated. Dust hung everywhere. Various body parts hung on rusty nails on the wall, arms, legs, heads, and even male genitals. On the shelves were jars of severed lips, noses, fingers, and clitorises. The smell of rotten meat wafted into the walls of the room. At a decrepit wooden table sat the butcher. He surveyed the arsenal, cleavers, knives, saws. He liked to admire his kit before he got down to the business of butchering meat. The screams of the victims never stopped. They were all begging for help, for release, that it wasn't their fault. But what they didn't know was that the butcher had taken them away on purpose. All those now sitting in cages, future delicious meals on the table. There are no humiliated and humiliated, nor is there an evil fate. They should be happy to be in the butcher's stomach. The butcher got up from the table, and with slow, heavy steps he walked out of his room into the hall full of cages. With a blank stare, he walked through each cage. A multitude of hands reached out to him. Victims begging to be spared and released. Some even demanded that he let them go, and screamed of dire consequences for the butcher if he decided to kill them. Only a small fraction resigned themselves to their fate, simply huddled in a corner of the cage and awaited their fate. The butcher stretched out his hand, crooked finger out in front of him, and began to count. He often did this when he couldn't make up his mind. Stammering and struggling to pronounce the words, Butcher finished the count. His finger stopped on a young blonde girl with a broken voice. The girl in turn tried to scream and shake her head, pleading and begging. She could not accept the fact that she would be killed and eaten. And by him, the butcher. The door of the cage opened. The girl tried to escape, but the butcher grabbed her hair firmly and pulled her toward him. The blonde girl fell, kicking her leg painfully against the bars of her cage. She kicked and fought back, but all these attempts were to no avail. The butcher dragged her into the large hall where he was in the process of butchering her. Slapped her stomach a few times to keep the meal from kicking. Lifted it up, head down, and hung it on a hook. The point entered the anus perfectly, almost through and through. Warm streams of blood colored the girl's body scarlet. Pain filled her entire gut, and her screams grew louder. The tears did not stop flowing. Suffering distorted the girl's face. The butcher returned to the room where he kept his assortment. He took a sack and put all the essentials in it. The blonde was already convulsing. One cut to the neck had finished her off. Now her face was colored scarlet as well. When the girl stopped showing signs of life, the butcher got down to business. The larger pieces were taken from the thighs, the breasts along with them. The more meaty parts on the sides. The insides will be a bit of a challenge. Some of the bones can be used for crafts. The skin can be used for clothing. Gloves or jackets. You just have to be careful to separate it from the flesh. Very carefully. The smell of fresh meat and blood fills the room. The butchering is done. Now we move on to the cooking. Let the thighs and breasts roast. You can add some herbs and onions. The heart is boiled together with the tongue. A pinch of salt in the pot, and the potatoes at the same time. The buttocks are an entertaining thing. They can be roasted like this without cutting them up, or still in small pieces, seasoned with pepper and liver. Cooking is easier than carving. The whole night had flown by without Butcher even noticing. It was only now, when he sat down at the table, that he looked at his watch. It was already morning. So we can start breakfast? The butcher ate the food he had prepared with incredible appetite. Food always tastes better if you cook it yourself. He had been convinced of that many times, and this one would be his last. There was already insistent knocking at the door, trying to break the door down and shouting something. Butcher paid no attention to the policeman. He knew that this moment would come someday. That someday an ordinary madman who wouldn't hurt a fly would become a monster to everyone. He could have butchered pigs like his father, grandfather, great-grandfather, but he wanted something new, namely human meat. The butcher knew that for the first time no one would suspect him, but it took a year, then 2 years, then 5 years. So he purposely made sure he was noticed, caught, and severely punished. The door flew off its hinges. A multitude of footsteps echoed through the house. The game was over. This was the butcher's last meal. And that was just one chilling tale, but we're not done yet. Get ready, because the next story might be even more terrifying. It all started when a good friend of mine, let's call him Sasha, suggested to me the idea of summoning the spirit of Piggy, that brutal, fat-killing maniac who may not have existed. You've heard the story of Jack the Ripper, right? The prostitute killer who also didn't exist? Same story with Piggy. He sort of killed fat people by cutting open their bellies and letting their intestines out, left a pig's head at each crime scene, was seen naked, covered in blood and under a pig mask, but he didn't exist. There's too many as ifs. It's a murky case, he's got our whole town on edge, but it doesn't matter. And why he did it, there were many theories, the motive of the murder, the identity of the killer, but which one is true, we will never know, but that's not the point. The point is how we prepared for the ritual and carried it out. Then we were about 16 years old, I and Sashka were into all these unusual things, maniacs, spirits and other devils. For this we needed a pig's head. A real one, of course. Then we needed an overweight person. And finally, the challenge must be held in a meatpacking plant. Thankfully, one such factory, long abandoned, was present in our city. The first 2 points were also fulfilled. We got the pig's head in a butcher's shop, and we had a fat man we knew. We'll call him Kirill. The ritual can be performed at any time of the day, we decided to summon the pig in the daytime. And now the moment of summoning has come. Of course, we did not say anything to Kirill that we call Piglitus, then he would hardly agree to it, because many people have a rumored maniac with a pig's head. So we said we were summoning the usual spirit of some butcher. Thankfully, Kirill was not into summoning spirits, so he didn't know who we actually decided to summon. Naturally, he refused, but Sasha and I still broke him, so he had to go with us, like to pass a test of courage. Kirill in general easily succumbed to our pressure, we often made fun of him, because of which he resented us, but still forgave us. We were bad company for him, but Kirill was always close to us. As he confessed to us, he had fun with us, despite all our tricks and jokes. I'm talking too much off topic. Anyway, we laid our heads in the heart of the meat factory, where all the cattle are butchered. 3 times we said, "Pig, come," and then we wandered around the building waiting for the spirit. Too ordinary, even banal, a spirit summoning, right? We walked around the abandoned building for a long time. We were beginning to think that the challenge had failed, just like all the other times we had summoned various spirits. But that was not the case. We were about to leave, when suddenly we heard a nasty grunting sound that cut our ears. The disgusting sound echoed through the mill, and we had to cover our ears with the palms of our hands. What was that? Kirill said fearfully. Sashka and I just shrugged our shoulders. We couldn't find the words to answer. We'd fucked up pretty badly, but it got worse. When we decided to check, returning to the place of the call, we heard footsteps. Heavy, slow. In addition to the footsteps, there was a cutting sound, as if something sharp was being driven against the wall. Then the nasty grunting sound again. We all jumped up and down together at that. There was silence. Pressing and frightening. Everyone's knees were shaking. I tried to keep my cool, to think straight, in case someone was watching us and playing a prank. It sounds a little crazy, but it's possible. Guys, Kirill raised his voice. Tell me this is all a joke. To be honest, those creepy noises are not part of our plan, I answered. What was part of your plan? Kirill asked, looking at us. Sanyak wanted to say something, but he was interrupted by a strange sound. As if someone had decided to sing gutturally through his vomit, as one might describe the sound. And it was right next to us. But from where? I can't say for sure. We stood in one place, ready to fall, our legs not holding at all from fear, and looked around. Someone or something was coming toward us, making a nasty sound. I was the first to spot the silhouette in the aisle of the slaughterhouse where Pigot's summons was being held. He was just standing there, watching us. He was a giant, 6 feet tall. Athletic build. In his right hand, he had a big cleaver. Guys, no one heard me, because of fear my voice became quiet. But soon Sanyak and Kirill noticed him. What the fuck, Shurik said and was the first to run away. Kirill and I ran after him. The piglet banged his fist hard on the door jamb of the passage and came running towards us, grunting disgustingly and loudly. From time to time, the blade of his cleaver touched the floor, making an unpleasant sound. He did not lag behind us. He kept coming closer and closer. Kirill, of course, lagged behind us. And for some reason I had a thought that if Swintus killed him, then Sank and I would get out of here alive. A smile spontaneously appeared on my lips. To be honest, I would have been happy with that outcome. While I was thinking about how we could escape, Swintus had already caught up with Kirill. There was a scream of pain and the sound of tearing flesh. Sanyak turned around to catch a glimpse and started laughing loudly and crazily, like the Joker. That laughter made my hair stand up and stay that way, and goosebumps like a raging sea passed over my skin. Personally, I didn't turn around, I was really scared. I didn't want to watch the dead Kirill fall to the floor. His sacrifice had been in vain. We managed to leave the meat factory. Of course, the story didn't end there. Supposedly, Piggy only kills fat people, but he followed us. Now he kills anyone who disturbs his peace. We were questioned about Kirill's death, of course. Even suspected of murder, but there wasn't enough evidence to lock us up. So Sank and I were released. Kirill's body was never found. Shurik spent the night at my place, his parents had gone away for a while, and he was afraid to be alone. My folks let him stay over. And after the whole story with Kirill, it was easier for them when we were under their care, especially when Sanka was alone at home. So we stayed together, we went for walks together, ate together, while one of us was in the toilet and the other was on guard. Our parents thought our behavior was strange, and we explained it by saying that we were playing a game that they didn't understand. I guess they believed us. I hid a penknife under my pillow, which I had bought a long time ago with the money I had saved from my lunches. Sashka also decided to buy such a knife, and I helped him a little with money. We slept under the light of table lamps. Everything went smoothly and quietly, but it couldn't last long. When everything was more or less settled, about a month passed. Sasha and I calmed down a bit. We thought that everything was over, that Swintus had accepted his sacrifice and gone away. Meanwhile, Shurik's parents came back home. Sanyak started packing, notifying his parents of his return. I escorted him to the front door, said goodbye, and left. It was evening. I was surfing the internet without a care in the world when suddenly the phone rang. I thought it was Sanyak, trying to notify me of his successful arrival home. But on the other side of the phone was my friend's father. He said that Shurik never came home. I thought back to the ritual, to Swintus and Kirill's death. Had Sanka become a victim now, too? The tube fell out of my trembling hand. A lump stuck in my throat, and my head ached sharply. My legs shook, I was about to fall. I ran outside, screamed something unintelligible. I don't remember anything else. I remember that I woke up later in the hospital. My parents were with me. They told me about my seizure, that I lost consciousness, fell down, and hit my head hard. I'm fine now, but Shurik. They found him a week later. Dead. The police came to me, questioned me, showed me photos from the crime scene that I'll never forget. I didn't say anything. I just vaguely told them about a man in a pig mask. They barely got away from me, accepting the story. Soon I was discharged and lived a normal life. Now about Shurik. He was found in that abandoned meat packing plant, hanging from a hook. Someone had gutted him like a pig. About my normal life. It seemed that way at first glance. In fact, Pigott continued to haunt me. He tortured me in my dreams, torturing Kirill and Sasha, dismembering them alive. Even with their limbs severed, they kept screaming and calling for help. I woke up in a cold sweat and feeling nauseous. Why doesn't he want to kill me? I don't know. But it seems to me that pretty soon it will be my turn to die, even though it's been 2 years. Maybe Pigott wants me to go crazy. Or maybe he wants me to step into his shoes. Become the new Swintus. Revive his slaughterhouse. And I like the second option better. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe to the channel. Until next time.